guys, it's Heather, the Butterfly Effect plant-based weight loss, and today is Friday, and that makes it Foodie Friday, and that's when I share a wonderful vegan recipe with you and we make it together. And today I'm making something even more special because I think it's time for an Instant Pot recipe. And what we're going to make today is called 1 Minute Quinoa, and we're going to make a Southwest Quinoa Casserole with it. So let's get started. The first thing that I've done is I took 2 cups of water and I got it hot already so that it would go faster in the Instant Pot for you. And then I'm going to take an equal amount, so it's 1 to 1. So if you do 1 cup of quinoa, you do 1 cup of water. I'm doing 2 cups of quinoa, so I'm doing 2 cups of water. 2 cups of quinoa is about a pound, so this is a pound package of quinoa. Okay, and I'm going to put it in there and just give it a little stir to get it in the water. All right. Then I'm going to put my Instant Pot lid on, and I want to make sure that the vent pipe is on sealing, not venting. I put it on. I can never do it with when I'm not standing in front of it. Hang on one sec. I have to laugh because I always have trouble with the stupid lid. And it's not, I never do if I'm not on camera. Okay. Ta-da! It's so easy. Okay, so I'm going to take it off saute. I had it on saute to get the water hot so it'd go faster for you. Now I'm going to put it on manual, and you're going to laugh. It literally is 1 minute quinoa. 1 minute. So that doesn't mean that it's going to take 1 minute in total. It means that after it comes to pressure, it only has to cook 1 minute. So it's singing to tell me it's all ready to start coming up to pressure. And we're going to make the ingredients for the rest of our meal. So what I'm making is called greens and beans quinoa casserole. And so here's the ingredients. I'm using these Simple Truth organic hot chili beans in sauce. This is like a weeknight recipe, so I'm using some things out of cans that I normally wouldn't. But I like the flavor of that. And it does have salt, but it does not have oil. Okay. And then I'm doing spicy black beans from the same company, Simple Truth. Okay, so 1 can of each. And I'm going to also be putting in, this is a half of a sweet onion, a Vidalia onion, because I'm going to be eating it raw, and so I didn't want it to be too spicy. I have about, a half of let's see, this is a 13-ounce package, so I'm going to say about 6 ounces of, this is spinach and baby kale mix, and I'm going to be mixing that into the quinoa. I've got some, this is a 1/4 cup of flax seeds that I've ground down in my NutriBullet. So I just ground them right now. It's really important with flax seeds, you want to store them whole and in the fridge, and you don't want to do them ahead of time. And then, so this is how I store them, just in a mason jar in the fridge, and then when I want to use them, I just grind them up right before, just like I did here. Okay, and another thing we're going to be doing is a half of this organic bell pepper. I'm going to go ahead and chop it up, and I love my Ulu for chopping things up. It's so cool. This is a knife that is from the indigenous people in Alaska, and it's perfect for chopping onions. You notice, like, I always used to use my onions, my food slammer, my onion slammer, and I still like it. I still use it, but man, this just makes it so easy that I can use it most of the time. So I'm just going to cut this up real quick while that's cooking. So bell peppers, all bell peppers are the same. So whether they're green bell pepper or an orange bell pepper, a yellow bell pepper, or a red one, they're all the same thing. They're just different amounts of ripe. So a green bell pepper is not ripe. And then yellow is the next least ripe. And then orange, and then they turn red when they get ripe. And the thing that peppers have in common, these sweet peppers, bell peppers, is that they all have an enormous amount of vitamin C, especially the red ones. They actually have more vitamin C than other things that you think of having vitamin C, like an orange. They have a lot. See what a quick work that made of the bell pepper? And what I love about it is the Ulu, whoops, the Ulu chops it all down, and it just makes it really tiny, which is really good for recipes. See how my quinoa is doing. Okay, it's starting to steam. I think it's already coming up to pressure. That's one nice thing about preheating the water, is you don't have to worry about how long it's going to take. Okay, and so then let's talk about the spices that are going to be in here. And one ingredient that I showed you in another video is my cheese sauce. So this is a cheese sauce that I showed. It's called nacho cheese but close, and because it isn't actually cheese, but it tastes pretty darn good. And we're going to use about a cup of this in our casserole. And so you want to make this ahead of time. If you don't like my cheese sauce, use somebody else's. I have recently started making it without nutritional yeast, and I thought, oh no, it's not going to taste cheesy, but it still tastes nice and cheesy. And there's one thing that I forgot to get out of the freezer, and that is corn. So hold that thought. Okay, I have some organic frozen corn, and we're just going to leave it frozen, or it'll thaw out a little bit before the quinoa is done. All right, and then let's talk about the spices. So we're going to put in 2 teaspoons of granulated onion, or you could use onion powder. Either one would work. 2 teaspoons of chili powder. A teaspoon of ground cumin. Tastes good with any kind of beans or anything like that. And 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. So that's, and the recipe will all be in there. And then I'm adding a cup of my homemade salsa. I'm going to add that in, and the corn. And the corn, I guess, would be about, I'm going to say about a cup of corn, just based on the ounces. All right, so this is almost ready. As you can see that it's a 1 on here, and that means that it is going to be ready. It started the countdown. So in 1 minute, oh, not even, there it is. It's all ready. And I like to let it come to normal pressure release, and that means that you wait. I'll let it keep beeping. You wait just a little bit and let it come down to pressure on its own. And I'm probably going to stop it pretty soon here. I'm going to let it go for just a minute, but I want to show you the recipe, and I don't want to take all your time. So why I like quinoa even more than I like rice. So rice has had some issues with arsenic. And if you need to know more about arsenic and rice, you can go on nutritionfacts.org, and Dr. Greger is a really objective and a knowledgeable source about this. And so I do think that if you're going to eat rice, the recommendation that I've heard is that you get rice grown in California and rice that has been tested for arsenic. And obviously rice is a healthy food. You know, Asian people have been eating rice for thousands of years. They have been very healthy eating rice, and so you can feel confident eating rice too. But I would, just to be safe, grow it in California, get it grown in California, and I would use something like Lundberg, because they test their rice for arsenic, and so you're okay. So the one of the reasons I like quinoa is because it cooks so fast. Rice takes a lot longer, and quinoa is not a grain. It is actually a pseudo grain. It's actually a seed, and it has a lot of stuff going for it. So it has a lot of protein, it has a little bit of the good kind of plant-based fat, just a little, but more than rice does, because rice has none. And it has, of course, carbs, and it's got a lot of antioxidants, and it's just a really good, and it's really yummy. It's really good for you. So hang on a second. I'm going to go ahead and release the pressure. Now, normally, when you make this at home, you let the pressure come down naturally, okay? Okay, so once all that steam is done coming out, I'm going to take the lid off. And while it's still hot, while the quinoa is still hot, I'm going to be adding the greens to get them wilted. You don't want them cooked, but you do want them wilted. And from here, it's just going to go super fast. Okay. All right, and I have to show you that quinoa, how easy it literally, you know, you come home from work, you're tired, you don't want to do much cooking, you don't feel like it, make some quinoa. Don't go through the drive-thru. Make some quinoa. It's so dang fast. Okay. All right. I'm going to move you. Here you go, camera. You're going to come over here and see the quinoa in the pot. Look at that. Perfect quinoa. Literally a minute. 1 part quinoa to 1 part water. And that is the whole formula. It is totally easy. Okay. So let's go ahead and make our recipe and add everything in. The first thing I'm adding in is those greens. Just dump them on in. Okay. And then I'm going to just use a fork and kind of push them into the quinoa so that they can get wilted and kind of cooked down. And it'll take a minute, you know, to kind of get them cooked down in there. So it's important to do it while the quinoa is still hot, because that helps to get them wilted. Okay, so I've got my quinoa in there, and now I'm just going to add my spicy black beans. Now, if you don't use things from cans, then don't use a can. Just make your own spicy black beans. I have a recipe for making spicy black beans in the Instant Pot on my channel, and I'll link that below. This is called hot chili beans. And again, you could make your own if you don't use processed, you know, if you don't want it. I'm making this thinking it's going to be kind of like a weeknight dinner, and that you might want something kind of easy that came from a can or a package this time. But overall, we're still using very minimally processed ingredients. Okay, so the greens are starting to wilt. right, now I'm going to add in, you want to add in the corn kind of last because it's frozen and it's going to make it cool off quite a bit. So I'm going to add in now my onions and my bell pepper. And one of the things about the bell pepper, to preserve the vitamin C, you want to use it uncooked most of the time. Because once you cook it, you destroy a lot of its vitamin C. So you want to have all that good nutrition going into your quinoa. All right. Okay. And now I'm going to add in the flax seeds. And this is going to thicken it up. It's going to give it a nutty taste. But mainly I'm doing it to get those omega-3s. And to get those lignans that you can only pretty much get in flax seeds. At least that's the only place I know that you can get them. They're so good for your heart. They're so good. They're anti-cancer. So each time you add an ingredient, you just mix it in. Okay? All right. So we added in the flax seeds. And I'll show you what it looks like now. We're almost ready. Here we go. See how that looks now? You got the greens and the peppers and the onions and the quinoa and the beans in there. Okay, so just a couple more things to add and then we're good to go. And so we're going to add in now our cup of salsa. And that is the homemade, the salsa fresca recipe from Mrs. Plant in Texas, except I left out the salt and I left out the sweetener. So that's a great recipe that anybody can use. All right, now I'm going to add in, I'm going to grab this cup and I'm going to add about 1 cup of my cheese sauce. So you can, if you can make this cheese sauce from the recipe I gave, or if you have another one that you like, you can totally use it. But what's in it is just natural ingredients. So it's got an onion and a red pepper. It's got some oats. It's got some low-fat tofu. It's got some spices like like garlic and chili powder and cumin, kind of the same things that we are putting in our casserole too. So it's going to be really complimentary. Now I'm just mixing in that cheese sauce. Let's just bring you over here. Okay, so I'm mixing with my left hand. We'll see how I do. So I can hold the camera with my right. So it doesn't look that beautiful, if I'm being honest. But I'm telling you, this is delicious. It tastes so good. I came up with this recipe on accident, just throwing some things together in the fridge, and man, was it good. Okay, I am going to add in my corn and my spices. And one thing I like about using the frozen corn is, you know how you make dinner and then it's just kind of too cold and you want to eat it right, it's too hot and you want to eat it right now? The corn kind of cools it down so that it's ready to eat a lot sooner. And the corn adds a sweetness that offsets the spiciness that we're going to add next, and the spicy that we have in the salsa. Okay. All right, almost done, guys. All we have to add is 2 teaspoons of our granulated onion. Okay. 2 teaspoons of our garlic powder, or you could use pressed fresh garlic, whichever one you like better. I like this because it distributes really well throughout the recipe. You don't get one bite that's really garlicky and then another bite that doesn't have any taste. So that was 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. And I always write the recipe underneath the video, so don't worry about that. All right. 2 teaspoons of chili powder. 1, 2. Okay, and then a teaspoon of cumin. I need to get more cumin because I love it and I use it in everything, I think. And that is why I'm running out. Oops, wrong lid. Wrong lid. Right lid. All right, so I'm going to give it one more stir, and then we're going to give it the good old taste test. See what you guys think. All right, just grabbing a plate. Okay, I'm going to admit that this is not the prettiest thing I've ever made, but it sure does taste good, and it has no oil, and you know, I think that Dr. Furman would approve because it's got greens and beans, it's got some flax seeds, it's got corn and onions, and it's got some bell pepper. It smells so good. It's got that yummy cheese sauce. It's really good, guys. You could totally, again, it's not pretty, but this would be great at a potluck or something. It's so fast to make. I mean, this whole video, from talking to you and everything, from start to finish, making everything, is 20 minutes. And here I am eating. So when the kids are hungry, you're hungry, reach for a good quinoa, a 1-minute quinoa, and make it into a nice casserole with beans and greens and all kinds of good Southwest ingredients. Bon appetit, happy Friday, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.